Hello and welcome to the Balance Warrior podcast. I am Chris Burlow, the solo balance warrior for today's episode, and excited to see everybody and hopefully excited for you to hear what we have to say on today's episode. This is definitely the podcast where we are working to inspire individuals, professionals, or whoever, all walks of life, to live with what we call multi-dimensional success. That is not just success in business, although that's a big part of what we talk about, but also success in your health, success in your relationships, and success in any passions or interests that you may have in your personal or professional life. Basically, our goal is to have you live your best life, and whatever that may look like to you, that you're achieving your own personal definition of success. So now I'm excited to share with you all a concept that I have learned, I would say actually more recently, through working with the thousands of people throughout the years, whether it be our martial arts students, or whether it be our empowered mastery clients. These are individuals that look at times we're teaching 4-year-olds on the mats, and we're working for multimillionaires in empowered mastery. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that people are people. And the number one thing that will define our level of success, whether that child or that adult, is our mindset. We wrote the book, You Have Infinite Power. And that book is basically has turned into our coaching platform. The 14 chapters of our book spell out the word transformation, and each letter in that acronym is one step in our process. The first 3 letters is T, and T stands for thought, R, which stands for replacing emotional scars, and A stands for awareness, really sets the stage for the rest of the program that we have. What I want to do is spend a few minutes and share with everybody something extremely profound that really starts in our thought chapter. So we always start our coaching program by sharing with everybody what we call the stick man. The stick man is not something that we have created. Coach Paul and I have learned this from Bob Proctor, who was one of the leaders in the self-development world. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he has a direct lineage to, from working under Earl Nightingale, who was a pupil of Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. He shared this information with us, and what we learned was a foundation for a lot of the personal development philosophy that even exists today. And I've read numerous books and attended numerous seminars that actually share this same concept. But the stick person, and I want you to imagine, for those who are listening, is a diagram. And it's a circle with a big head, right? It's a figure, stick man, with a big head. And that big head has a line right across the middle, goes down, has a little body, right? Why is the mind, or that big circle, so much bigger than the body? Because we believe that the body is nothing more than a manifestation of your mind. And if you look at a weightlifter or somebody who's really fit, their mind drove their body to have the results it did, right? To be fit. Or you have somebody who completely let themselves go. It's the opposite. Their mind allowed their body to allow themselves to let their body go and not be healthy or physical fit. So the body is nothing more than the manifestation of the mind. And I think everybody can agree with that. So they take the mind and they cut it in two. The top part of the mind is what we call the conscious mind. In the conscious mind, we say you could accept, reject, or neglect any conscious thought that comes in your head. That means that when you have a negative thought come in, you don't have to own it. You can actually change it into a positive right there on the spot, right? But a lot of people do not know that they have that freedom and the power to do so. Now, in the subconscious mind, that bottom half of that visual that I'm sharing is where we could only accept thoughts in. That is where all our habits are. That is where all our deep-seated beliefs are. And that is where all our paradigms are. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is a series of habits and beliefs that form your own reality. So what happens is when somebody is thinking a negative conscious thought, that will eventually spiral into the subconscious. Why? Because they say it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. I believe it takes 21 days to break a habit and 21 days to create a new habit, that would be 42 days. Now, why is this very important? Because if somebody has a negative thought that they're consistently thinking on every single day, eventually that negative thought over those 21 days or 42 days is going to seep into their subconscious. And when something goes into the subconscious, they take ownership to it. And when you take ownership to it, it becomes a part of you. And I want you to think about, for all those who are listening, what are some of the habits that you have? It's very simple. For example, it is probably a subconscious act when you drive. You don't have to think about putting on your blinker. You don't have to think about looking in your mirrors. It happens subconsciously. Why? Because those skills, through the repetition of doing it over and over and over again, have seeped into your subconscious, and now it's automatic. I have a feeling that when you put your shirt on in the morning, most of you maybe, that you put the shirt on correctly, that you don't put your shirt through the armholes. Why? Because subconsciously you know what to do. And I have a feeling that those individuals that wake up every morning and the first thing they do is watch the news and the negativity of the news, I guarantee that those individuals tend to be more pessimistic and negative, because the first thing they're doing is infiltrating that negativity, absorbing that negativity, right? So that is why the rituals and the things that we do on a daily basis will affect what we're thinking and also how we're feeling. So what does that mean? We like to say our conscious mind is our thinking mind. It is the thoughts that we have every day, and we're having, they say, 60,000 thoughts a day. If you're a business owner or entrepreneur, I'd say double it. But the subconscious mind is our emotional mind. What does that mean? That means that's where our feelings are, because you'll have a conscious thought that will then decipher and then run through our subconscious mind. Depending on what our belief system is, will then determine whether we feel good or not. So, for example, if my wife is an endurance athlete, she says to me, guess what I want to do? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do now? Thinking in my mind, she's crazy. She says, I want to swim around Manhattan. Oh, okay. So now somebody says to the two of us, right? Hey, do you want to swim around Manhattan? Conscious mind for her is like, yeah, I want to swim around Manhattan. Then that thought goes into her subconscious. She has the feeling of excitement and enthusiasm. And then that's going to also reflect in there. Now she's going to figure out a plan on how to do it. And she's feeling excited, exhilarated. And you ask me, same question. Hey, Chris, you want to swim around Manhattan? And the first thing that goes in my mind, I think about it, goes into my subconscious, because my habits and beliefs are, there is no way that I want to do that event. There is no way I'm going to go in the Hudson River. There's no way this is this. And I have a different feeling surrounded around based on that same thought. So my feeling is quite negative in the fact that there's no way I'm going to do that. My wife's feeling is quite the opposite, excited, because of what her belief system is. And my point is that the conscious thoughts that we have will ultimately determine how we feel. How we feel is going to drive our actions or inactions, which are going to produce the results. In this story, my wife will end up swimming around Manhattan someday. And for me, my story will be watching her swim around Manhattan, because there is no way I'm going to do it. It doesn't interest me. That is what we call the success formula. So hopefully that gives you a kind of big picture around the stick man. Thoughts is the conscious mind. Feelings and the emotional mind is in our subconscious. We can only accept these thoughts in. We cannot change them at a subconscious level, because it takes 21 days to make or break something in the subconscious. That will then fuel your actions or inactions, depending if you're inspired or not. And that will ultimately determine your results. Like I said, if you want to change the results in any area of your life, we want to first start by changing your conscious thoughts. Now, the profound story, or the profound philosophy I want to share with you is basically called yeah, but. Yeah, but. I want everybody to say, yeah, but. YEAH, comma, BUT. What is yeah, but? Yeah, but is an extremely powerful tool to make sure that negative thoughts do not seep into your subconscious. And I actually learned this because I was mentoring a young college kid, and his parents hired me to help him work with mindset, because he was struggling. He was struggling because during COVID is when he first started college, didn't have the same college experience as everybody else, and therefore it kind of messed with his mind quite a bit. So we would meet live, and I'm having tea with him, something that we do often. While I'm having tea, every time he would say something, I would find myself saying, yeah, but, and then I'd find the positive. And then he'd say something. I said, yeah, but, then I'd find the positive. And finally I said, wait a minute. I think you should just say that to yourself. He's like, what do you mean? I go, anytime you find a negative and you're thinking about the negative consciously, because we can accept, reject, neglect any thought that comes in, consciously counter it immediately with, yeah, but I this, and this. So for example, he may have said, oh man, I screwed up so bad. My grades were so bad in school, and I'm so much more behind than I thought I would be. Yeah, but right now I am crushing it in school and getting the best grades I ever did in my college career. I love this one. I said this awesome. Oh, I fell down the stairs and I hurt my elbow. Yeah, but did you see how fast I got down those stairs? And this yeah, but is so important because it protects the negative from seeping into the subconscious. And it could happen with anything, in any way that you want to spin it. You just have to counter whatever the negative is with the positive yeah, but. Do you understand? Because ultimately, we have an internal sparring match. In the martial arts, we spar. When you don't have a counter to the negative, it's pretty much like getting punched in the face. It's pretty, again, your hands are down. But when you have the ability to counter the negative with the positive and have a strategy such as that, yeah, but it's like you're blocking. So the negative comes in, you block it, and then you counter it back with the positive. Negative comes in, block it, counter back, and eventually that negative is not going to want to come in anymore because you kept on punching it back. All comes down to yeah, but. Yeah, but. I do this naturally. It's very, very comfortable. It's very, very natural. It happens automatically because I programmed my mind to find the positive no matter what circumstance is happening. All the time. It could be it's so many times. Let me put it this way. I remember COVID. COVID was difficult for everybody. You know that. I'm sure it's very much, close in our minds, and we try to forget it. But the reality is, We all went through it. We endured, and we're definitely on the other side, which is wonderful. But I remember during the hardest times that even having these mastermind calls, that while we were focusing on the negative, I kept on saying to myself, and all the things, we had to close the businesses, we had this, we had that, we lost our income. I remember saying, yeah, but all we have to do is get to the other side. Yeah, but all we have to do to get the other side. And there are times of like, yeah, but do you realize that we are living through a historical event that people are going to talk about 100, 200 years from now? And I would constantly do that, yeah, but to change my thought pattern to go in a different direction. You read something in the news, yeah, but this, and this. And when in the default one could be, yeah, but I'm at the bottom, but now I have no place to go but up. And then when you do that, you see things from a different lens. You find hope where you couldn't find it before. Mastering your mind is one of the hardest things to do. Events happen, we get upset. That's understandable. The most important thing you have to understand and realize is that we just can't live there. And using that yeah, but strategy, it allows you to change that thought pattern and not live there. Negative thoughts are going to come in. It's okay. Don't live there. That is my little 15 minutes of wisdom. I hope I wasn't too long-winded. I hope I was able to give you a little visual. And I really, really hope from the bottom of my heart that you utilize this yeah, but strategy and eliminate any possibility of your negative thoughts to spiral into your subconscious, because when that happens, that means you take ownership to the negative. And yes, you are a negative person. There are ways to break that as well. If you are one of those pessimists, those negative people right now, tune in. And another episode in the near future, we will show you how to turn that negative into a positive. And again, I don't care what stage of life you're in. You could be the most successful CEO of this top Fortune 500 company, or you could be an individual who is just an aspiring athlete. You could be a stay-at-home mom. You could be a stay-at-home dad. You could be anybody. The most valuable asset you have is your mindset, and you have to do everything and anything in your power to protect it. That's all I have for you all now. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Balance Warrior Podcast. I'm sure you'll see some of our other Balance Warrior friends. And if you do like it, please share this message. If you know somebody who could use it, who tends to be a little negative, put them in that positive state of mind and teach them the yeah, but philosophy. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, Chris Burlow is out, and we will talk to you soon.